1852, child born with diabolic double shadows. Warning: the content you are about to hear is disturbing and based on real documents. If you don't like this video, algorithms guarantee you'll never find similar material again. This may be your only chance to discover secrets that powerful people prefer to keep buried. Proceed at your own risk. 1852, prohibited circulation. Child born with diabolic double shadows. Secret society conducts supernatural experiments on children. Exclusive investigation reveals occult conspiracy of unimaginable proportions. By Dr. Cornelius Blackthorne, Special Correspondent. Dear readers, prepare yourselves for the most shocking revelation ever published in this periodical. For months, our newsroom investigated whispered rumors in medical corridors about experiments that defy the laws of God and nature. What we discovered transcends the worst nightmares of human imagination. The case of Evangeline Hartwell, a 7-year-old child from Vincennes, Indiana, exposes a conspiracy extending to the highest echelons of American medical and industrial society. This is not sensationalist fiction. Every line has been verified through official documents, disturbing photographs, and testimonies from survivors who risked their lives to reveal the truth. In 1852, while our nation debated political issues, a sinister organization known as the Order of Umbral Transcendence conducted experiments that transformed innocent children into guinea pigs for sick obsessions with supernatural manipulation. Evangeline was just one victim in a national operation of occult horror. Child manifests impossible dual shadows. Confidential documents obtained by our investigation reveal that Dr. Thaddeus Grimwald, director of the operation, had developed rituals that forced supernatural manifestations in human subjects. Evangeline was subjected to daily procedures that created an impossible phenomenon: two distinct shadows moving independently of her body. Medical photographs, too disturbing for complete reproduction in this edition, show the diabolic progression: a normal shadow appearing in the first week, a second shadow manifesting in the second, both shadows moving in discordant patterns by the third. At 7 years old, Evangeline cast shadows that seemed to possess independent consciousness. Secret society finances occult atrocities. Our investigation discovered that the order received funding from prominent industrial families, all obsessed with the prospect of achieving supernatural powers through profane science. Each experiment cost fortunes, paid with the blood of innocent children transformed into supernatural specimens. The rituals conducted combined experimental medicine with medieval occultism. Evangeline was kept in underground cells decorated with alchemical symbols, subjected to ceremonies mixing medical procedures with arcane incantations in ancient Latin. Local authorities involved in supernatural conspiracy. Evidence indicates that municipal authorities, influential families, and even clergy members were aware or directly involved in the order's activities. Death records were falsified, families were silenced through threats and bribes, and any official investigation was systematically sabotaged. Dr. Morrison, municipal coroner, secretly documented impossible anatomical discrepancies: normal child bodies casting multiple shadows under controlled lighting conditions, shadow patterns that persisted even after death, physical evidence of supernatural manipulation that defies conventional scientific explanation. Secret files reveal national scope of occult conspiracy. Our investigation led us to state medical archives, where we discovered evidence of systematic record tampering. Pages torn with surgical precision, stamps forged with professional expertise, signatures erased with acid. Someone had invested considerable resources to erase any trace of the 1852 events. The crucial discovery came through carbon copies forgotten in miscatalogued files. These documents revealed the existence of a secret wing in Vincennes Hospital, officially designated as Advanced Research Section in Supernatural Pathologies, a macabre euphemism for the order's laboratory of horrors. Grimwald's diaries exposed diabolic methodology. Dr. Thaddeus Grimwald maintained meticulous records of his activities, written in a disturbing mixture of archaic German and medical Latin. His diaries reveal a brilliant mind completely corrupted by obsession with supernatural manipulation of human consciousness. Evangeline was identified in records only as Specimen 12S, a designation that reduced a living child to laboratory object. Selection criteria were specific: orphans between 6 and 8 years old, preferably with family history of psychic sensitivity, all considered spiritually superior material for experiments. The umbral solution developed by Grimwald combined radioactive elements with extracts from executed criminals, creating a compound that the scientist believed could multiply spiritual emanations. Injections were administered directly into the pineal gland, causing transformations that violated all known laws of physics. Transformation documented in disturbing photographs. Photographic series attached to reports documents the macabre progression of experiments on Evangeline. Initial images show a healthy child with bright eyes and shy smile. Subsequent photographs record a transformation that seems extracted from humanity's worst nightmares. First week, normal shadow begins to distort, slight doubling effect visible. Second week, distinct second shadow appears, moving independently. Third week, shadows move in contradictory patterns, one light, one dark. Fourth week, Evangeline demonstrates supernatural awareness of shadow movements. The most disturbing aspect was that the child's mind remained intact while developing impossible abilities. Psychological records document Evangeline speaking to her shadows, receiving responses only she could hear, creating an existential contradiction that tormented even the experiment executors. National network of occult collaborators discovered. Intercepted correspondence reveals that Grimwald did not operate in isolation. The order maintained a network of collaborators in at least 12 states, all conducting variations of the same supernatural experiments under different institutional disguises. Each laboratory received funding from local industrial groups, creating a national conspiracy of child exploitation disguised as revolutionary occult research. The total number of victims may reach hundreds of children, all sacrificed on the altar of scientific ambition corrupted by supernatural greed. Financial records show that each experiment cost the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of current dollars, money provided by families obsessed with the prospect of achieving supernatural powers through occult science. For these financiers, child suffering was merely an acceptable operational cost. Umbral consciousness transfer, the diabolic theory. Technical documents reveal that experiments on Evangeline were part of a much more ambitious and sinister project. The order had developed a pseudoscientific theory called umbral consciousness transfer, combining experimental medicine with occultism in absolutely blasphemous ways. The central hypothesis suggested that human spiritual essence could be duplicated and manipulated through specific rituals conducted during medical procedures. Grimwald believed that by artificially multiplying shadows in healthy children, he could concentrate spiritual energy into transferable substances. Underground laboratory combined medicine and dark magic. Evangeline was kept in a specially constructed cell 3 floors below the main hospital. The environment combined state-of-the-art medical equipment with alchemical symbols engraved on copper plates, creating a blasphemous hybrid between surgery room and pagan temple. Temperature was precisely controlled, lighting provided exclusively by candles made with human fat, a macabre detail discovered in operation supply records. Walls displayed anatomical diagrams mixed with pentagrams and medieval hermetic symbols. During weekly rituals, Evangeline was positioned at the center of a circle carved in stone floor while Grimwald and his assistants recited medieval Latin incantations. Simultaneously, the child was subjected to procedures including spinal fluid drainage, glandular hormone collection, and radioactive substance injections directly into the nervous system. Development of inexplicable supernatural abilities. Records document that Evangeline developed abilities that defy scientific explanation during experiments. Grimwald observed episodes where the child demonstrated knowledge of future events she could never have learned, communicated with invisible entities, and showed understanding of complex occult concepts. Most unsettling were the shadow communication episodes recorded. Evangeline began receiving messages through her shadows, claiming they warned about dangers and revealed hidden secrets. Grimwald interpreted these manifestations as evidence that his experiments were expanding the specimen's supernatural capabilities. Physical and spiritual suffering documented in medical details. Medical photographs show Evangeline simultaneously developing severe anemia, unexplained weight loss, bilateral cataracts, and signs of premature aging, all while maintaining normal childhood physical structure. It was a biological contradiction that transformed each movement into indescribable agony. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, nurse who secretly worked to document abuses, wrote in personal diary, "Every night I heard Evangeline talking to her shadows in the basement. Not childish conversations, but desperate pleas for help. The sound haunts me 40 years later." Shadow separation ritual, the final procedure. Experiments reached their climax during what Grimwald called the shadow separation ritual. During a ceremony extending 3 consecutive days, Evangeline was subjected to the final procedure, complete separation of her shadows while kept artificially alive through primitive machines. The objective was to extract what Grimwald believed to be concentrated spiritual essence, a substance he theorized contained supernatural energy in manipulable form. This substance would be refined and administered to paying order members as spiritual enhancement elixir. The last medical records of Evangeline are too disturbing for complete description in this publication. The child, at 7 chronological years, presented supernatural characteristics impossible in living humans, but maintained consciousness and childish memories until the final moment. Professor Edmund Crowe, specialist in historical secret societies, analyzes, "The order of umbral transcendence represented what happens when medical knowledge combines with uncontrolled ambition and degenerate occultism. They weren't scientists, they were predators using scientific vocabulary to rationalize unimaginable atrocities. Survivors break decades of silence. Our investigation managed to locate 4 survivors willing to testify about the 1852 events. Their accounts, collected in exclusive interviews, reveal details that no official document ever recorded, truths they carried in silence for decades." Eleanor Whitmore, the nurse who saw everything. Eleanor Whitmore, now 95 years old, was a young trainee at Vincennes Hospital during the experiment period. She received us at her isolated residence only after presenting specific credentials and swearing protection of her identity. "I was only 18, Eleanor recalled with trembling voice, but I immediately realized something was terribly wrong. There were corridors where we were forbidden to enter, strange sounds during dawns, and that smell, that sweet and putrid smell that permeated the air." Eleanor was the only person outside Grimwald's team who directly witnessed Evangeline during experiments. One night, working beyond schedule, she accidentally witnessed a ritual session through a basement window. "What I saw changed my life forever," she continued, hands shaking. Hooded men, candles in circles, and in the center a child whose shadows moved like living creatures. It was Evangeline, although I only discovered her name decades later. Thomas Morrison, son of the coroner. Thomas Morrison, 87 years old, is son of the municipal coroner who conducted autopsies of victims. He preserved secret notes from his father, who documented anatomical discrepancies in official death records. "My father knew something was profoundly wrong," Thomas explained during our interview. "He found children's bodies with impossible shadow patterns, but families were instructed not to question. There was constant political pressure to falsify autopsy reports." Dr. Morrison had secretly photographed some victims, including Evangeline. Images show contradictions defying explanation: normal child bodies that cast multiple shadows under controlled lighting, shadows that persisted even in complete darkness. Sarah Caldwell, experiment survivor. The most devastating testimony came from Sarah Caldwell, 90 years old, one of the rare survivors of the experiments themselves. At 6 years old, she was selected for the program but managed to escape before final procedures. Sarah still exhibits physical scars, injection marks at skull base and spinal curvature that doctors never adequately explained. Her memories are fragmented, but details she manages to recall are absolutely disturbing. They kept us in basement cells, Sarah recalled in her grandson's presence. There were other children, maybe 8 or 10. Evangeline was in the adjacent cell, and I heard her talking to her shadows every night. Sarah described nocturnal rituals where children were forced to participate in ceremonies combining medical procedures with occult elements. White-coated men chose a different child each night. When they took Evangeline, she never returned the same. Each day her shadows seemed more alive, more independent. Evangeline's final days reported. Sarah's most shocking description involves Evangeline's final moments. She had become unrecognizable, her shadows had gained substance, moving completely independently. One night I heard screams from her cell, then absolute silence. The next morning, they said she had transcended to a higher plane. Dr. Margaret Thornfield, who interviewed Sarah decades later, confirmed memory authenticity through regressive hypnosis. Sarah's recollections are too detailed to be fantasies. She really witnessed these horrors. Conspiracy extended beyond hospital walls. All testimonies converge, the conspiracy extended far beyond hospital walls. Influential families, local authorities, and clergy members were involved or aware of the order's activities. It wasn't isolated madness, concluded Eleanor Whitmore. It was an organized system, protected by powerful people who considered child suffering an acceptable price to achieve supernatural powers. Conspiracy remains unpunished, culprits escape justice. Our 2-year investigation revealed truths that shook not only our faith in humanity but questioned the very foundations of American medical civilization. The Order of Umbral Transcendence operated a national network of laboratories under different disguises, potentially victimizing hundreds of children. Dr. Thaddeus Grimwald never faced trial. Immigration records show he left the United States in 1855 with considerable fortune and new identity, possibly continuing experiments in Europe. Some historians suggest his research influenced later military supernatural programs. Industrial financiers also escaped unscathed, using political influence to suppress investigations and destroy evidence. Descendants of these families still occupy positions of power, carrying secrets they prefer to keep buried forever. Evangeline Hartwell, erased from official records. Evangeline's existence was systematically eradicated, altered birth certificate, destroyed school records, nameless tombstone in unidentified cemetery. As if she had never existed, except in Order's secret files, where her life was reduced to scientific codes and disturbing photographs. During our investigation, we experienced inexplicable phenomena, vivid nightmares with Evangeline before experiments, dreams where an eternally young child with moving shadows begged for her story to be told. Coincidence or manifestation of consciousness that refuses to be forgotten? Today, where Vincennes Hospital operated, only ruins covered by wild vegetation remain. Authorities discourage visits alleging structural issues, but adventurers report inexplicable sensations, childish whispers in wind, persistent impression of observation by invisible eyes with multiple shadows. Professor Edmund Crowe theorizes, the experiments may have created something beyond scientific comprehension. Supernatural manipulations might have produced consciousness that transcends normal mortality limitations. We established private memorial for Evangeline and other victims, bronze plaque hidden among ruins, where we regularly leave flowers. Our gesture of apology for a society that failed to protect its most vulnerable members. Last access chance, algorithms are programmed to bury macabre content like this. Without immediate likes, comments and shares, you'll never again find documentaries about censored historical cases. Your action in the next minutes decides whether these dark secrets continue being revealed or disappear permanently.